Hi there, I'm Dr. Bosh P. Jordan Jr., the pastor and founder of Hope Alive Outreach, and they call me the Hope Doctor. Welcome today. We have a very fine show scheduled for you today, and we do hope and pray that if you have someone in your family who suffers from the disease of addiction, primarily drugs and alcohol, you would tell them to stay tuned. Right now, you can reach this on Facebook or also on YouTube under Hope Alive Outreach. Our broadcast is given so that we might be able to help individuals, give them some hope, give them some faith. Those individuals who may be still out there using, or individuals who are in recovery or in sobriety. Today, we will be discussing a topic of spirituality, race, and race in recovery. If you'd like for me to come and speak to your organization regarding recovery, and also to share with you my book, which is entitled The Pipe and the Pulpit. I've been in recovery now going on 33 years, and I've been working in the field for about 32 years. And so God has given me a tremendous story to tell. And also this book has within it some spiritual principles that can allow you to help someone else. So if you'd like to get this book, you can go to my website. That's Hope Alive Outreach, www.hopealiveoutreach.org. And you can get that book and you can read it yourself. You can give it to a loved one. Or you can give me a call, 443-250-9635, 443-250-9635. We have two co-hosts today. Our first co-host is Nicole. Hi, Nicole. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
All right. Glad that you're with us today. And our other co-host is Clay.
Hello.
All right, Clay. All right. We can't get this. All right. All right. And we have as our special guest today, Brother Warren. Warren is from Baltimore. Hey, Warren, how are you doing today?
Hey, everybody. How y'all doing? Wonderful. Glad to be here.
We have another guest who is trying to get on, and my producer is going to be working with her right now to try to get her on. Because when we're talking about race, it's important that we have representatives of various races on our broadcast so that we might be able to discuss it. Spirituality and race in recovery. Looking at what is known, what we call the second step. The second step in the 12-step program says we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Didn't say that it would, it said that it could. And in our basic textbook, on page 22, it says under step 2, the second step is necessary if we expect to achieve ongoing recovery. In other words, the second step is leading into the third step, where it says we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood it. The second step says on page 23 that we have a disease, progressive, incurable, and fatal. Now, in this process of coming to believe, it's similar to most addicts. Most of us lacked a working relationship with a higher power. But after working the second step and moving into the third step, we begin to have a working relationship, a spiritual relationship with our higher power. The third step, we'll be talking about that interchangeably tonight. The third step says we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. And so tonight we'll be talking about spirituality as it relates to each of our guests and each of our hosts. And we hope and pray that you will be empowered tonight. I first of all would like for each of our individuals who are here tonight to take 2 or 3 minutes just to tell a little bit about themselves. And so why don't we start off with Nicole?
Sure. Hi. My name's Nicole. I have been sober for 11 years now. I reside in St. Pete, Florida with my 2 sons and my husband. I'm a journalist, full-time freelance. And I'm really excited to be here and to discuss 2 and 3 with us.
Thank you so much. Okay, and our other co-host,
Corey.
Clay.
Oh, my name's Clay. Um, I am coming up on 18 years.
18 years old? 18 years
18
old?
years. 18 years. Yeah, I feel like I'm 18. 18 years in 12-step fellowship.
Okay.
I am currently a mental health therapist at PEMS and a substance abuse counselor at Winmore. I also contract and have some affiliation with the Pinellas County Jail with Marchman Acts.
What is PIMS? Tell our audience what is PIMS.
PIMS is personal enrichment through mental health services, and we cater to a target population. We address the population that society has turned their back on.
Okay.
The population that are unemployed, no insurance, homeless, living out in the streets. We provide services for them to crisis stabilization and referrals,
Okay.
outpatient.
Thank you so much, Clay. And our guest tonight from Baltimore is Warren. Warren, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. My name is Warren. Thank you, Dr. Bosch, for the invitation to come to this afternoon. And it's great to have something like this here. I've just celebrated 14 years of recovery. And believe it or not, I've celebrated 12 years. 12 years. I mean, this is interesting. 14 years. I've done the steps probably about 6 times now. I've been, this is an awesome program, man. And it took me a long time to get here. I didn't get it till I was 56 years old. You hear me?
Right.
Now I'm 72. So God has blessed me. I got here when I was supposed to get here. So I thank God for this program. If it had not been for God, I wouldn't be here. Be very clear. I thank for the Narcotic Rooms and Narcotics Anonymous, but God sent me here, and I decided to stay.
So you got old in the program?
I got older. I was already old when I came here, man. Come on.
Older. That's right. That's right. I was in the meeting the other evening, and the lady, I think she was from New York, and she was looking around on Zoom, and she said, I'm not the. She said, we got some old people in here tonight. You know, she says, I'll be 68. You know, in April, something like that.
Yeah. And
so when I shared, I said, you know, when you talk about old people, I thought maybe you were talking about me. But anyhow, you know, it's really a blessing to be able to get to the position in your life where you begin to have gray hair.
Yeah.
And because everybody who has used a drink or drug does not live long enough to get gray hair.
Yes.
So if you got gray hair, say amen.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah, I got gray hair.
Okay. I was thinking before this broadcast, did I ever get high with any Caucasian? And I was getting ready to write down, and I started writing down. I never got high with, and then all of a sudden, my memory came back. And I did a dose of hope today earlier, and I talked about how important it is for us to be able to share our past in that 5th step, and that sets us up for being able to share our testimony with a newcomer. And I also said that sharing our testimony, sharing about our past with a newcomer, not only helps them, but it also helps us to remember how it was. And what came back to my memory was the fact that when I was using, this is before I became a pastor, I had a clothing store in Baltimore, and at nighttime, what I did was I took a rack of clothes, 15 or 20 outfits, female outfits, down to a place called The Block. And The Block had about 15 burlesque houses on it. And I would sell my clothing to strippers. And then I remembered that I had a relationship with an Anglo-Saxon woman. And then I remembered that one of the club owners there, I got high with this female, and one of the club owners who allowed me to come into his burlesque bar to sell clothes, I had a relationship with him and his wife in smoking marijuana and drinking alcohol. So I was trying to think about how spirituality and race affected my recovery, how it affected me when I was using. And what I would like to do is I'd like for you to just share from your own experience how your recovery and race have been affected before and after your recovery or your sobriety. Okay? Why don't we start off with Clay? Let's go in alphabetical order.
So you're asking me for clarification. You're asking me I'm getting a lot of feedback.
We'll talk about the topic of recovery and race.
Okay.
Excuse me.
And
Spirituality and race
okay.
in recovery.
Okay. So in recovery, I can speak on the spirituality component, but when it comes to active addiction and when I was out there using, I really wasn't practicing anything spiritual. And as far as race and people that I associated with, at the time, I didn't see it growing up in my development. I didn't see it as something that would benefit me, but I have an African-American father and a Caucasian mother. So I was able to slide between the two races and with relative ease. And so I didn't come across, I didn't hit any barriers in active addiction. When it comes to recovery, I find that some of the challenges in recovery with the application of spiritual principles there's a little, it's a little rough, as far as, in my opinion, the acceptance from the fellowship of a 12-step program. You run into dichotomies and cliques and things of that nature. So, yeah.
When you out there using, did you ever get high with any white people or
Absolutely.
Asians?
Absolutely.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
White, black, Puerto Rican, Cape Verdeans, Jamaicans, Mexicans. Yeah.
Really?
Any and everybody was open when I was using drugs. The more people that was around me, the more opportunity I had to continue my drug use. And by myself, I would probably only been using for about 2 years as opposed to 25, because I needed people. I needed people to manipulate. I needed people to, to take as victims. Even when you was beside me, like I didn't have any loyalty to anybody, most people.
Okay. All right. We've had one other person come on, and I just want to introduce Nancy to the group and also to our listening audience. If you bring Nancy on, my producer will bring Nancy on. Nancy, we've entered into the topic of spirituality and race and recovery. But first of all, what we did was we had each individual to just introduce yourself and just for 2 or 3 minutes, tell a little bit about yourself, about your recovery, about where you are today, as the Spirit leads you.
Well, where I gratefully am today is in recovery. I mean, I just cannot tell you the difference it's made in my life. I am 80 years old, just celebrated my 80th birthday. I didn't get
Wonderful.
I didn't get sober till August 12th of 2009. So I don't know the math, but I was pretty long in years when I got sober.
Yes. That's 11 and a half years.
I'm sorry?
I said, that's 11 and a half years that you've been sober.
Well, then I said something wrong because I've already got 12 and I'm looking forward to 13 on August.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it was 2008. Sometimes when you get to be over 39, we get things mixed up.
You know, I've noticed that.
Yes.
For many years now. So I, like many of them, had 2 attempts that didn't work. I could always find excuses. Like most of us, I was incredibly into denial. At one point in my career, I headed a very large drug and alcohol program. Of course, I understood alcoholism when it related to anybody but me, but not to me. And I had every reason in the world to think that none of them valid to pull myself. So gratefully, I got a therapist who unfortunately has passed away. You all might even know him. His name was Fred. And he was a wonderful, wonderful therapist. To my, for the grace of God, he was in recovery and he could see through my game, but he couldn't convince me that I was alcoholic. So one day I asked to see the notes, just the clinical notes. And what convinced me was reading. He had normal clinical notes, but on the side, he would say, had a hangover twice this week, had 7 drinks last, he just had all these notations about me. And when I saw it just scribbled in the side every week, that I'd had 3 hangovers then I just had to face the facts. And thank goodness I faced the facts. And as I say, I had 2 attempts into AA. The 3rd attempt was on August 12th, whatever year we decide that was. And I've been gratefully in recovery ever since.
All right. I'm thankful that you were able to get on tonight.
Thanks to Pia, maybe
yes.
God too, but I have to give Pia a lot of questions, a lot of credit.
Yes. Nicole, can you share with us how has recovery changed your perspective on race, if it has at all? Were you involved with other races when you were drinking on a regular basis? Just share a little bit about that, please.
Sure. I grew up in a lily white tiny town, and so that was who I grew up drinking with in high school. I moved over to St. Pete when I was 18 years old, and that's when things kind of opened up and I started hanging out in places like Ybor and working in restaurants with just, a pretty diverse mix of people, and drank with those same people. I'm a journalist. So when I got sober and started doing, when I really, really dug into recovery and sobriety and living a sober lifestyle, and then started writing about it from the journalistic perspective as well, and doing research, what I started to realize was how white most of the spaces are, and started wondering why and kind of digging into that. So when I was younger, it wasn't really something I considered, but as you know, Basha, I'm the mother of biracial children and the wife of a Black man, so it's something I look at often now.
You said it's something that you look at often? Yeah,
spaces and that kind of thing.
Yes. Okay. Yes. That's definitely multicultural, multiracial as far as your living and your recovery is concerned, your sobriety is concerned. One of the things that that has happened. I'll just throw this out. I'll throw this out. Being in recovery and working the steps have changed my attitude toward individuals of the other race. Before I came into recovery, and before I did a second and third step where I made the decision to turn my will and my life over to the care of God, as I understood. Before I did that, I had some undercurrent issues with all white people. I did, but when I came into recovery and began to work the steps and began to go to integrated meetings, especially when I came to Florida, because when I was in Baltimore, I never had the opportunity of going to an integrated meeting in Baltimore. All the meetings that I went to in the Narcotics Anonymous were African American meetings in the inner city. Baltimore had over 500 meetings in the city. And so as a direct result of me changing internally, spiritually, I was able to expand my mind and to listen and to be empathetic and more understanding of whites. I mean, that's, and I realized that while I was putting this broadcast together, because I had to look internally, because race plays a great part in our everyday life. If you come out of the house, more than likely you're going to be confronted with someone of the opposite race. And I just think that being in recovery gives us some additional tools to work with. Anybody want to comment on that? Warren?
His mic is on.
My mic is what?
Your mic was off. It's on now.
Okay. What I was saying, man, thank all of you guys, man, for sharing where you are right now and how you got there. For me, man, I know I'm a spirit being. I got that. I'm a spirit being and I'm connected to a higher power. I got all that. So I kind of was, I used for a long time. I like mostly using by myself. But when I could begin to connect my spirit with something greater than me, and that didn't come till later. That didn't come till later on. It didn't come in the beginning. Because I was just in my own thinking I could do this thing by myself and thinking that the people, like you said, about the people I was hanging around with early on were just people just like me. That didn't happen to me until like in probably the 1990s. I think 1990s when I began to get in relationship, intertwining with other races, and I didn't look at that as I thought it was okay because all we wanted to do was get high. The color of your skin didn't make any difference. If you had it, I wanted, and we did it together. But when I got into understand what this thing about recovery was all about, it made a difference. It really made a difference because the only way I did that, I had to get into the work. I had to do the steps because the steps helps me identify who I really am and potentially what I can become. But I didn't get that too early. Not in the beginning, I was kind of rolling with the punches, man, going along just to get along. Going along to get along, everything else in the process. But when I wanted to get in this process of recovery, that means I had to do something different I never did before. First of all, I had to be honest with me.
Warren, do you mind sharing what your profession is?
Well, I'm retired now. Now. I taught school for 38 years.
I'm talking about what you do now.
I'm gonna tell you in just a minute. Right now, I'm a co-pastor. My wife is a pastor, and she checks me all the time. I like that.
All right.
Because I can't slide anything by her like I used to do. So I work a lot and I love what I do right now in the field. in the field of recovery and also in the field of ministry. Ministry, that's a twofold thing, man. Because I can see if you like me and anybody, you know an addict when he comes, because you know that attitude and that behavior. But
That
what I
look.
do now, man, well, I know all that because I see it. When I see you, I see myself. So I got to check myself. And sometimes I got to pull you to the side and say something that's important for you to say so I can help free myself and help free you. So I do that on a consistent basis. But I got 2 brothers, I got 3 family members in recovery. Brother got 20 years, my sister got 18 years in recovery. Okay, so it does require a great amount of commitment. What are you willing to do to change? It says change, you must and die you will. It said change. Are you willing to change? But a part of this, the spirituality piece, man, in recovery, I got to be real honest with Warren. Consistency and persistency all the time. And it's not always easy because I don't always like doing the right thing. But in order for me to get my process of my recovery and keep my sobriety intact, I must do that. First of all, for me, I got to go to a power greater than me to help me in this process. For me, and that's God.
Let me just throw this out
That's
there.
where I get my foundation from.
Does anyone on this platform either sponsor someone of the opposite race or have a sponsor of the opposite race or another race? And the reason why I'm saying that is because since I've come to Florida, and in St. Petersburg, there are a lot of meetings. But I was talking with someone the other day who was saying that she had come in contact with an African American male, and she wanted to know where was there a black meeting. And the majority of the meetings that I attend here in St. Petersburg are not black meetings. As a matter of fact, I attend AA meetings. My AA home group is 95% white. Okay. And being in recovery has allowed me to experience different experiences.
Right.
I mean, white people dance different from black people. I love to dance. Black people, their diet normally is different. Even the language can be different. But when it comes, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to spirituality and recovery, I can learn just as much from you if you can learn from me if we're open.
Yeah.
You want to jump in there, Nancy?
Did you ask me something?
Yeah, I said, did you want to jump in there? Because I wanted to give you an opportunity of giving us your flavor.
Well, one thing, I heard you change it, but I like talking about other races more than an opposite race.
Okay.
I don't feel that I'm the opposite of you or Warren. And I just have not, race has certainly been a big issue in my life. I'm from the South, you can tell, Southern Kentucky, and I've had a lot of learning to do. Oh, Nicole, I just wanted to show you this book. Can you see it? Have you read it? I'm finding it helpful. But if I move to spirituality, my spirituality has everything to do with my sobriety. And I struggled going to different churches, reading. I just always strove to feel really spiritual and as if I really believed in a higher power. But the way I view it now, alcohol was my higher power. So there really wasn't room up there for a true higher power because alcohol was before everything in my life. And I would strive to be spiritual. Really strive. and I've always been a striver. And I wish I'd just striven a little earlier to start AA and start my recovery. But so I was so ready once I came into recovery, but I still couldn't trust. And I think trust is such an issue for any of us who are addicts to whatever the addiction is. And certainly trust was enormous for me. So I still couldn't turn my trust over to a higher power. And finally, what I started doing when I was really desperate about something, and I could get pretty desperate in my early days. Um, my first issue, and it was ridiculous. I thought my neighbor was trying to steal some of my land. I mean, it was just ridiculous. He was actually being kind, and but I was so distraught that I finally got on my knees. I thought, okay, this is what they tell me to do, and I don't see how it's going to work, but I'll do it. Well, would you believe the upshot of that story that I'm telling you, where I truly thought my next door neighbor was trying to steal my land because he planted some plants on my land and he put some stones down? Well, it turned out the stones were for my garbage can. He was just being kind to fill in this gap with some ground cover. And it turns out that not only was he in recovery, but he had started an internship program overseas for alcoholics. I mean, can you, from my thinking he's a thief, a land thief, I got on my knees and then suddenly I learned all these things. And um, he found this fluffy little dog that was the cutest little thing you ever saw. And he just fell in love with that dog. And so I went out and bought all these pink goodies for the dog. And he cried. He was so touched. And it was at that point, I think, that I found out that he was in recovery, and we really connected around that. But, you know,
Was he African? Was he African American?
no,
Okay. All right. All
um,
right.
no. But that began. You just can't be in recovery, I don't think, without finally accepting your spirituality and really beginning to trust. So I just owe, and I'm so grateful for my belief in a higher power.
Uh,
Your story?
in that third step, it says, we made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. And so when we talk about spirituality, that's what our program is about. All 12-step programs are about spirituality because they have that second step, that third step, and other steps that talk about God or higher power in them. How has being in recovery or being in sobriety changed your attitude or relationship with individuals of other races?
I don't think it has at all. I just don't think it has. I can't, I've really thought about that since you told me the topic, and I just can't see any way in which it has.
Okay. Well, let me just say this to you. By you being a minister in your church, and well,
It's different. It's
okay.
different.
I understand, but when you came with us pastors, when you come with us pastors on the third Saturday of the month to the St. Petersburg Police Department, and we pray together, the way in which you prayed, the way in which you had us to pray, It's the first time I've prayed like that. And it changed and had a great impact on me. And I can't say that it was a white prayer or a black prayer, because I don't think that
There's
I
no
don't think
color
that,
to prayer. Come on.
yeah.
I mean, let me just say a little more because I joke and say, thank goodness I'm Quaker because I couldn't pray like the rest of you guys do. And I couldn't. I could if I'd been brought up in a black church. But your prayers to me are just so utterly spontaneous, hopeful, just on the money, and so real. And I love it. So
Well,
there you
one of the things about our program in recovery, it gives us an opportunity of having a God as we understand him or her. Can we talk about that for a minute? How do we understand that? And I think that when I have to explain or share my experiences of my third step with an individual that I'm sponsoring, then I expose my God to them. I share with them my higher power. I have often heard when I first came around that you can borrow my God or my higher power until you get one of your own. I've also heard that some people use the group as their higher power. I've even heard some say you can make a light bulb your higher power. I've heard that. But I've also heard that a higher power should be loving and caring. You want to jump in there, Nicole? Yes, go ahead.
There we go. Okay. My relationship with the higher power has evolved over time in sobriety. The one that I started out with was the one of my childhood, which I had no problem with, and it worked really well for a while. And as I have stayed sober for a few years and kind of, practiced to step 11 and really explored, what my relationship with a higher power looks like, it's kind of changed and evolved. And what I realized was before I got sober, I believed in a higher power. I believed it was there, but I had no trust in that higher power in any part of my life. And since I've gotten sober and stayed sober for a little while and searched, like, our program tells us to, that trust has developed. That's the thing that's really changed for me.
Okay. Clay, you want to share a little bit in there how you deal with spirituality in recovery?
Okay. First of all, I like to say that the 12-step fellowship that I attend, we don't care about race, creed, religion, lack of religion, or anything like that, because I know we have some viewers out there that may take a different approach or a different understanding of what we're doing here. So what I want to do is I want to invite them in to let them know that this is not about race and this is not about differentiating and having different groups. This is about some people coming together and understanding that we address these kind of topics, and we don't want them to be a barrier for anybody seeking recovery. Okay.
Yes.
And in any of the fellowships that I've attended, I find that in my active addiction over 25 years, it really didn't matter who I was getting loaded with. In recovery, it really doesn't matter who I'm recovering with. Race, creed, religion, lack of religion, it doesn't matter, male or female. I understand the parameters in the 12-step fellowships and what they say. But me being a professional in the field, I advocate for anybody seeking recovery, and especially persons of co-occurring disorders, and that is a mental health component connected to the substance abuse component, whether it's alcohol or an illicit drug. I have had, my first sponsor was African American. My current sponsor is Caucasian. I have sponsored African Americans and Caucasians. It really doesn't matter, because when you're operating in the spiritual component, all of that stuff takes a back seat. I understand that for some of us, it could have hindered our recovery or our process through recovery. And thank God, man, that we've stayed in recovery long enough to have some experiences to challenge our beliefs when we were out there using and our development.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Said Nancy, Nicole. Anyway, you know, this program is such awesome, man. In that third step, the main focus I had to do for me, is to trust God, because I couldn't trust my own thinking. I couldn't trust the decisions I was making. But that spiritual piece, when that came together, I knew it was God, because I normally wouldn't make a decision like that. See, so I got to go to God first. I know God works through people. I know that, and He'll send you to people to get the answer that you need. But when I came together and began to trust a power greater than me, because I thought I was that power, okay? But when I realized I wasn't, I had to humble myself and do the work necessary for me to stay here, and that's to trust somebody. That you know, you say you want to trust somebody who want to help you in your recovery, because people want to help, but you can't tell help how to help you. I can't, man. But I want to get better in all areas of my life. Like I said, it took me a long time to get here, man. If you use drugs as long as I use drugs for over 40 years, and to think that you had the thing, you had it. Really? No, you didn't have it. Once you thought you had it, you really lost it. Because I lost it for a long time. But I thank God for sending me to a place to get the help I need. And then I decided to stay, because I began to hear stuff and my life began to change. And people around me saying, "Warren, you're changing." I didn't know I was changing. I was changing because I was doing the necessary work to stay here in my relationship with my higher power. And that was God.
Yeah. And it's important for those who are listening, and for us, to make sure that we take our higher power seriously. And I appreciate what Clay said, because we don't want to alienate anyone. Recovery is not about race.
No.
Getting high definitely wasn't about race. It was about who had it.
Who had it, and how could I get it?
And how can I get it? And if someone other than the African American wanted to buy me a drink at the bar, I said thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And
With all the courtesy in the world.
in the world. and if someone was using, no matter who they were, and if I ran out, then I would ask. I didn't have any problem asking. Like Nancy said, her higher power was. What did you say, Nancy? What did you say it was?
Alcohol.
Alcohol.
Easy.
Yes. My higher power was drugs and alcohol. And so what recovery has done, it has caused me to switch, to change my higher power.
Mm-hmm.
I can recall many times passing by or driving by a liquor store or a cut rate, and they would have a sign on the window, "Spirits sold here." And if you all ever see that sign, "Spirits sold here," Alcohol and drugs are, as far as I'm concerned, are a spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So those in the listening audience, listening to this broadcast, I'm Dr. Jordan, and we are. They call me the Hope Doctor. We are giving some information and some hope and some help to those persons who suffer from the disease of addiction, primarily drugs and alcohol. If you have a question that you want to put in your comments, we ask that you do that. If you'd like to get in contact with me and you want to get some help or some hope for a loved one or maybe for yourself, you can call me at 443-250-9635. You can also email me at info@hopealiveoutreach.org. God does not allow me to discriminate in who I give hope to and who I help. As our guests have said the same thing today. This is about giving hope, giving help to whoever the person is. And I hope and pray that this broadcast is blessing the individuals who are here tonight and who are listening. How has spirituality changed your life since coming into 12-step program?
For me?
Okay, you can start. Go ahead.
Okay. An active addiction I used for over 25 years. In those 25 years, I've been to prison 9 times, Massachusetts, New York, Texas, 4 times in Maryland, and twice down here. Spirituality and God has changed my life. And I know that God is the cornerstone in my recovery. And the reason that I know it is because he's the last one I asked.
Okay.
Right?
What did you ask?
The last one I asked, right? So, in that time of using, and in that time of using, I've lost 3 brothers, 3 sisters, and a mother and a father as a direct result of the disease of addiction. So I know how deadly it is, right? Either directly or indirectly. And like I said in the beginning, I have been able to obtain a master's degree in mental health counseling. On the verge of being a licensed mental health clinician. I'm a master's level certified addiction professional. I have 2 jobs and 3 positions. So we know that myth, if you have a felony conviction, you can't get a job. We know that myth is out of there because my God has made a way. Okay. And like I said, I know it was him because he's the last one I asked.
And would you say that it's a parallel between you asking and a prayer?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I asked in prayer.
Yes.
I asked in prayer.
And
I believed that it was going to be delivered.
Yes.
I believed that it was going to be delivered. So I'm saying that for the listening public, because there may be some people out there and not really know the tentacles that are in the 12-step fellowship and how it reaches out and how it can change and affect your life and turn your life around.
Very well said. We seem to have lost Warren. Hopefully he'll be coming back.
Can I just say something in response to that?
Yes, sure.
Clay, I just think your message is so inspirational. But I heard you say that when you asked God, well, you knew it was God did it because he was the last that you asked. But I heard you say that you had to trust. And I can remember I really was trying everything not to quit drinking. Don't misunderstand. I never wanted to quit drinking. I wanted to drink less. I didn't want hangovers. I didn't want blackouts, and I wanted to drink less. And so that's really what I was begging for. But when I asked God at that time, I didn't really trust God. As I say, alcohol was my higher power. So I
Mhm.
might as well have been asking a light bulb or whatever you said, because there was no trust there. There was no, and that time that I got on my knees, I had enough trust. I didn't have a lot of trust. I'm kind of testing it out, but I thought, okay, people tell me to get on my knees, so darn it, I'll do it. And then when you see it work, and one thing leads to another, but that happens because of sobriety, and that happens because of recovery, and that happens because of meetings, and that happens because of the big book. Just the whole that happens because of our sponsors and just the whole package. But we can't do it for ourselves. And I don't know, I'm trying to think what somebody could have possibly said to me on a panel when I was out there drinking and not able to bring myself into AA that would have made a difference. But I guess it's different strokes for different folks, and we all come in when we're ready. Um, but when they say that one of the things that really helps, and it's true, is once you step in the door, step in the door enough times that you really stepped in the door and you're really desperate, you really see the program working and all the faces around you. And they talk about the laughter, and the laughter matters, just this wholesome, happy laughter with no drinks involved, no drugs involved, just laughter and love.
There
And
he is.
Can we remember? You talked about getting on your knees.
mhm,
Do you remember what your prayer was?
just to help me. I don't even know. I knew that what I had in my head was crazy. Well, I still was thinking, I guess I was asking to be helped that the man would steal my ground or something. I don't know, but I know I was desperately asking for help. And anytime I get on my knees, I mean, I didn't real trust that first time. I can't say I did, but it worked. So then, of course, the next time you have a little more faith. And now I know it works. I have perfect confidence it works. So that didn't come easily. And like Nicole said, trust is a big issue for us.
Yes. Yes. Um,
Usher.
yes, go ahead, Warren.
Look, I'm sorry I got off the thing.
That's okay.
Anyway, man, thank you guys, man.
Okay.
The cry that I knew God heard me when I was sick and tired of myself, man. I was crying out in desperation because I was sick and tired of doing the things that I was doing, but I didn't know how to stop. I didn't know. I wanted to stop. I really want. Look. I had the crack in my hand and a lighter, but I didn't want to do it. But I got too caught up. I didn't know how to stop. But eventually, God took away that obsession for me to use. And then, man, something happens. Like a metamorphosis happened inside of me, man. I didn't have no more desire to use, but it happened. That happened for me in treatment. See, outpatient for me just wouldn't work for me. You had to put me someplace to lock a key behind the door so I couldn't get out. Then I had to pay attention because I couldn't run anymore. I was sick and tired of me. But when I got into that place, and that place, what happened was I got into a place with him, with a one-on-one with him. And he did something for me. He said, "Warren, you don't ever have to use again." And I never used again at that point because I was tired. When you get into desperation, man, God will step in for you, but you got to call upon him. He's not going to do it just because you want it. You got to surrender everything over to him. I surrender everything over to him. Look, I've never been in a meeting I wasn't supposed to be in. I never got a message from a meeting. That's why I keep coming back, because I never know what's going to speak to me. Now it's not, but that's the good part. Now, how you going to apply it? It's the application of that information, only way it's going to work. So I did it that way, and I look how my life had turned around. I got me back because I lost me out there in acts of addiction.
Yes.
So this journey continues, and I like the way I'm living today. I'm living today like I've never lived before because God's in control, and I'm not.
I believe that God puts those individuals who might come into the program who may have difficulty with God.
Yeah.
I believe that God puts individuals in a 12-step meeting who can inspire us. He puts people in our lives who can lead us to the God of our understanding. Nicole, what do you think about that?
Yeah, there was something that Warren just said that really struck a chord with me, and it was that that idea of application, because that's really how I approach spirituality today. It's not really about what I learned, it's about how I apply it, how I use it in life, what that looks like. And a lot of times that looks like working with someone who struggles with spirituality and a higher power. Because I did in sobriety for a few years. You know, that's an experience that I have, and thank goodness it says in our book somewhere that like the spiritual thing is wide and roomy and there is enough space for all of us, and I really take that to heart, and I really run with that.
Yes. When I first came into the 12-step fellowship, after I got out of treatment, they said go to a meeting. And even though I was a pastor, I did not have a relationship with the God that I understood. That's my story. I was preaching and teaching from a textbook God, and from the head knowledge. But today I have heart and experience knowledge, and there's a big difference. I mean, like it's a difference between having a girlfriend and a wife, or having a boyfriend and a husband. It's a big difference. I mean, because you can have a relationship that's on one level, but then what happens is when you're around other individuals who have a relationship with God that's on a higher level, it can influence you. And I believe that's what happened to me, because I was angry with God. I thought that God had forsaken me. I was wondering how in the world could God allow me, a pastor who is preaching and teaching his word, to get strung out on drugs and alcohol.
Wow.
And so when I went into treatment and heard about God, I was angry. When I got out of treatment, I was angry. But when I came into the 12-step fellowship, the steps allowed me to establish a working relationship with God and to understand God. There was a comedian by the name of Richard Pryor who said, "I'm in love with a woman I can't stand." I was in a relationship with a God that I did not understand. Well, before we close, I want to thank you all for being here with us this evening in this discussion on recovery and race, and spirituality and race, and just give some closing remarks to give hope to somebody who's listening. Why don't we start with you, Nancy? Then we go to Clay. Then Warren, and then let Nicole close us out.
One thing that makes me a little nervous when I think of our audience is the fact that I know there are a lot of people who say, I would like to go to AA, but it's too God-centered. It's too godly for me. And I don't want the message to be, you'll come into AA and you'll find God. You may not. There are even groups, we agnostics, and there are people who are agnostic and still are in recovery. So I'm grateful for the gift that I feel I've received, and it was a gift to me of spirituality. But that might not be your path. There are many paths to sobriety. And I happen to think a 12-step program is, well, it worked for me. That's all I can say, and nothing else did. So, and there's no harm in giving it a try and giving it a good try. But if it doesn't work for you, you don't have to keep coming. There's nobody going to judge you.
Yes. If I could leave you with anything, I would just like to leave you with, all the barriers that will hinder you from experiencing the opportunity to receive recovery. And like Nancy was talking about, the emphasis is not on coming in looking for God. Our belief is if you work the 12 steps, one will contact you. Uh, and so yeah, we would just like to see you in the meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Is it me, Basha?
Yep.
Look, man, thank all of y'all tonight, man. I needed everything I heard is what I needed. When I come to a meeting, I never know what I'm going to get, but I'm going to get what I need. The next thing to do is be able to apply that information that you got tonight. My thing is keep coming back, more will be revealed. My also thing is that you can't do it alone. Lone Ranger had one tonto. How many tontos you got? How many people you got in your life that you connected to? But first of all, get connected to God first. My belief, get connected with him first, and he'll lead you through the right path you need to go. So thank you, Dr. Baja, and all of you that attended tonight. It's been an awesome meeting for me, and I really do appreciate it.
Thanks, Warren. My hope for tonight is just that when you come into these rooms, there really are no, I want to say, expectations. You don't have to come in a certain way. You don't have to come in with, understanding under your belt. You don't have to come in with anything but yourself and a tiny bit of willingness to maybe change a bit. And that's what's so powerful about the program. I didn't come into a 12-step recovery program thinking I had a problem with alcohol. I didn't come in thinking that I needed that kind of help, but I knew something was wrong. I knew that I couldn't continue living the way that I was living, and I knew that I was willing to listen to someone else for a minute. And it was that space and that willingness that brought me to the life that I live today. And that's possible for anyone that walks through the doors and gives themselves that little bit of space.
Thank you, Nicole. When I came into the room, when I first came into the fellowship, it was not by my own doing. God put a good wife in my life who saw and believed that I could get some help. She saw more than I could see. So whether it's a wife or husband, a grandfather, a mother, God will put somebody in your life to let you know there's hope for you. So I want to thank Warren. I want to thank Clay, Nancy, Nicole, and my wife, even though she's not on, there's her hand.
There she is.
Even though she's not on the screen. I personally don't know what I would have done if God had not sent her into my life.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so those of you who are listening, you can't do it alone. And God loves you. He cares about you the same way he cares about all 5 of us. I'm Dr. Jordan. If you want to get in contact with me, you can call me at 443-250-9635. Or you can email me. Share with me your needs, and I'll try my best to give you some hope, get you in detox, get you into treatment. We have a mental health specialist with us tonight, Brother Clay, a journalist, 2 ministers. And one thing I want you to remember, no matter what you're going through, there is hope for you. I'm the Hope Doctor.